So I just watched a video I made about 8 months ago about the opening in the clothing brand industry. And what I said was the opening is there's the opening in the clothing brand industry, there's like brands with trash clothes that don't mean anything. There's brands with all right clothes that don't mean anything. Then there's brands with good clothes that don't mean anything. And then underneath that is brands that mean something and have good clothes, and then underneath that is brands that change the world. So I was saying like the opening was okay, you just want to make amazing clothes and have brands that truly mean something so it can influence a generation. That's what I was saying. But now with the information I know after 8 months of making a brand, after 8 months of learning from people, after 8 months of doing this, I would say the opening now, meaning is almost becoming cringy. You know what I'm saying? Like, meaning is almost becoming cringy. Like, to say your clothes were influenced by this thing and that the clothes have meaning, it's almost cringy. Like, people don't want to know. You know, I feel like the opening now is walking into Crown Hall and out of breath. And by that I mean it's something Virgil Abloh said. It was like he was looking for the architecture building at his college when he first got there. And he walked into the architecture building and literally just seeing it took him out of breath. He was like, "Oh wow." So it's like you need to do that with a clothing brand. You need to create a brand that someone sees and they're like, oh, they see it and they're out of breath. They don't need an essay explaining what it is. They see it and understand what it is. So the opening is not creating videos describing it. The opening is creating a product that describes itself. That's the opening. You know what I'm saying? Like, that is the opening. The opening is creating a product that describes itself, a brand that describes itself in an instant. You know, like something that can be taken infinite amount of ways. For example, Pyrex 23 on the back of a shirt. It relates to a demographic, but then you hear the explanation and you're like, oh my God. Crown Hall out of breath. For 2 Dot, what have you been doing? You've been putting 2 Dot on the bottom of a pair of sweats with some jean pockets. How does that make someone think for themselves? There's nothing in that. Like there's nothing in that. As much as you would want it to be, there's nothing in that. So like you can try all this, you could try to brand it, you could try to do all this. The truth is there's nothing in that. There's nothing in that. So now, no, that opening got filled. People filled that shit. Because I just watched another video of me talking about it. It's like the biggest downfall of the main. I said the reason all these clothing brands won't exist in 10 years is because they won't adapt. They'll do what worked last year. And I'm looking at myself and I'm like, oh, I'm trying to do what worked last year. But the truth is the landscape changes infinitely. That's clothing. It's same with TikTok. The landscape changes infinitely. Sure, you can hold on to a past to a certain extent, but eventually you'll be seen as the past. So I would say the current opening is walking in the Crown Hall out of breath on clothing. How can you do that? You just want to make, okay, simply put, the opening is clothing brands with extremely good meaning and extremely good clothes. That's the opening. The opening is a clothing brand that does what Two Dot Visionaries did. That's the opening. Don't mind anything I just said. The opening is a clothing brand that does what Two Dot Visionaries did. The opening is a clothing brand that in 3, 5, 10 years, the people who looked at it, the people who bought the clothes, the people who understood it, went on to then create something of their own. That's the opening. That's the opening. The opening is a clothing brand that gathers a group of people, influences them to become great, and then over the next years they become great. That's the opening. How do you do that? The messaging behind the brand, the post you post, the stories you tell, and the clothes you create. Everything needs to be in alignment with the goal of pushing the next generation in the right direction. And I feel like you've lost that sight. You've lost sight of that. And the only reason I'm making this is I'm currently making a collection. And it's like, okay, I have a really good high quality t-shirt that looks cool. Like, I have a really high quality t-shirt. I have a really high quality pair of shorts. So does 1,000 other clothing brands. There's nothing special about them. And in order for me to truly create, you need to come in here and you need to grab a group of individuals, create something that attracts a group of individuals, teach them something, teach them a skill, teach them how to think, give them an outline of how to think, and then push them into the fucking water. What did Two Dot Visionaries did? Two Dot Visionaries took my personal brand. It took my personal brand, took my business, it pushed those group of people into a community, and then it taught them a skill. Many of them used that skill, made a few bucks, but a lot of them took that skill, took that information of, oh, I can make money on my own, and then went and did it in their own ways. You need to do the same with a clothing brand. You need to use your personal brand to funnel attention to a clothing brand. Once these people go into this clothing brand, you need to teach them a skill that then they can go off and learn in their own ways. This skill is thinking. How do you teach people how to think? That's the $1 million question. How do you teach people how to think? Emma is your experiment. Emma is how you'll teach people how to think. And it's crazy. She might, if you're watching this, love you. I love you. But Emma is project number one. Emma is project number one. Remember the questions you asked her to make her realize who she is. And then use those questions through your brand. Because the opening that I see, that probably will be closed in a year from now, but the opening I see now is create a community, teach them a skill, and then push them in the right direction. You want to create a clothing brand that creates a community that you input knowledge into, so that then they learn, they create a skill that then they can use, and then they adapt and move forward. And I don't know. I had the idea as I was watching those videos from a year ago. I was like, damn, I don't think like that anymore. No, I think 1,000 times sharper. I think 1,000 times sharper now. So, yeah, the plan, the opening, the goal of these things you're making right now is to gather a community of people, teach them the skill of thinking, and then push them in their lives. That's it. That's 2 dot. Gather a group of people, teach them the skill of thinking, and then push the whole thing forward. That's it. Like, that is it. That is it. There's nothing else in it. That's it. So, okay, how the fuck do you do that? Instagram posts, Instagram stories, the clothes you create, the campaigns you run, your personal brand, but mostly the clothing brand. Like, think of 2 dot exactly how you thought of 2 dot visionaries. You know what I'm saying? I've been thinking of it too much, like, oh, I need to sell these things. You haven't thinking about it like, oh, how can I provide value to people? And the value you can provide to people is helping them think. So the clothes you need to create should help people think. That's it. Like the clothes you create should help people think. It should teach them the skill of thinking. That's it. That's what would make me love them more, is if they teach people the skill of thinking. Sure, there could be all these aesthetic things, but if the clothes I create don't teach people the skill of thinking, there's no reason for them to exist. So, yeah. And it should be like an aha, like the misunderstood logo. It should be something like, just like, oh shit, out of breath, walking Crown Hall out of breath. That's the design. That's the opening. Create clothing that teaches people how to think, not remind them to think for themselves. No. It teach the world to think. Teach the world to think.